Okay, so it's time for us to get back into our coverage over the X-Men. And with that being said, we're going to pick up with the Uncanny X-Men Annual number 18. Now, really, this is a very special annual for me personally. And the reason why, because we get Caliban going up against Sabretooth one more time to get revenge against Sabretooth for what he had did with the Marauders back in the Mutant Massacre storyline. Now, as we all know, when it comes to the Mutant Massacre, it was the first ever X-Men crossover ever done in Marvel Comics. It was X-Men, X-Factor, and also New Mutants, even though the New Mutants only had like one chapter in the entire crossover. But either way, when it came to the crossover, it was the first one ever done. But it was the Marauders going into the tunnels of the Morlocks, and they killed off a ton of Morlocks, but one of the Marauders was Sabretooth. And so you have Sabretooth just go on a killing spree, killing off Morlocks left and right. And for Caliban, he was a Morlock. So to see his people get massacred really did bother him a lot. Now, after the Mutant Massacre, you did have Caliban join X Factor. Now, it was only for a short period of time where he was part of X Factor, but with them being with X Factor, they were then confronted by Apocalypse. Now, for Apocalypse, he wanted to bring X Factor and also Caliban over to his side. Now, X Factor, they said no, but Caliban said yes. And the reason why? He wanted revenge against the people who had caused him harm, but also caused the Mutant Massacre. And of course, that would be the Marauders, but especially Sabretooth. And so for Apocalypse, he took Caliban in. Now, after doing that, he did give Caliban an upgrade and made him a whole lot stronger so that he would be able to go after Sabretooth. Now, when it comes to our coverage over the X-Men, he did try once, but the problem was Caliban failed. But now he's trying again to come after the man he wants to kill so badly, and that would be Sabretooth. And so getting into the opening pages for today's video, we do pick up with Caliban going after a group of kids who are just minding their business, having a good old fun time camping with one another. Now, the reason why he goes after them because, well, they have food. And he needs their food for a special person that he is currently holding as a hostage right now down in the old tunnels of the Morlocks. And so once you have Caliban being able to grab the food, he goes back into the tunnels of the Morlocks to hopefully feed his hostage what he had just stolen. And we kind of find out the man had kidnapped Jubilee. Now, the reason why he had kidnapped Jubilee is to do a fair trade. He is hoping the X-Men will trade Sabretooth over to him to get Jubilee back. Now, the reason why you have Sabretooth right now at the school of Charles Xavier is because around his time in Marvel Comics for Sabretooth, he was technically a prisoner there, but you have Charles Xavier trying his best to fix the mind of Sabretooth, to hopefully turn him into a better person. And so for Caliban, once he got word that the X-Men are currently holding on to Sabretooth, he was kind of like, no, that is not okay at all. That man had murdered a bunch of mutants, murdered a bunch of Morlocks. He has to die for what he has done. And so that is why he had kidnapped Jubilee, hoping to have a fair trade done to get Sabretooth to finally get his revenge. And so we do see that Caliban had left a letter behind for the X-Men to find that basically said like, hey, you want Jubilee back? Well, you got to hand over Sabretooth. Now, for the X-Men, they also realized that Caliban only wants one person to bring Sabretooth over to him, and that would be Kitty Pryde. And the reason why, because in the early days of X-Men comics, when it came to Kitty Pryde and also Caliban, they were really able to kind of build a bond with one another. Now, for Sabretooth, he hates the idea that he's being used as a bargaining chip to get Jubilee back because technically he's not an X-Men. He hates the X-Men with a passion. And so you have him try to make a deal with Charles Xavier and also Jean Grey as a way to get Jubilee back. Now, for Charles Xavier, he's kind of like, dude, you have no room here to try to make any kind of deal with us at all. Now, for Sabretooth, all he wants is the glow. Now, in my last video, I didn't really properly mention the whole idea of what the glow was. I mean, I did, but I didn't use the word glow to kind of explain why he says the glow. You see, for Sabretooth, he had a character known as Birdie who would go into his mind to ease the pain in his mind to make things easier for him day in and day out. And for him, he would call it the glow. Now, Birdie died back in the miniseries for Sabretooth. And so you now have other characters who are psychics who could kind of give him that glow, like Charles Xavier, Jean Grey, and also Psylocke. And so he tells Jean Grey, if you want me to help you get Jubilee back, you're gonna have to give me the glow. And of course, they say no, because he has no room here to make any kind of commands at all. Now, for Jubilee, we do see her being able to break away for a short period of time from Caliban. And here's how. You see, for Caliban, for most of his life, he had lived down in the tunnels of the Morlocks. And so because of that, his eyes are no longer able to take a huge amount of brightness all at once, like, for example, the sun. And so for Jubilee, her powers comes in handy right here, because with the brightness of her powers, it really does bother his eyes a lot, allowing her to attempt to escape from him and to hopefully get back over to the X-Men. But the problem is that she gets lost very easily in the tunnels of the Morlocks, and so it allows Caliban to be able to catch up to her and take her back in once again as a hostage. Now, you do have Kitty Pryde arrive. Now, when she does arrive, we have to remember that for Kitty Pryde, she's kind of upset with Charles Xavier, because at the tail end of Fatal Attractions, you had Charles Xavier use Kitty Pryde as a way to hopefully bring Colossus back to the side of the X-Men. Now, that plan did not work out at all, but it's Kitty Pryde saying, like, here you are again, trying to use me to get one of my friends to do something they don't want to do, or go against one of my friends like Caliban and Colossus. But either way, she does agree to do the mission as a way to get Jubilee back. Now, you do have Jean Grey give Sabretooth a little small piece of the glow. Of course, the whole idea of giving him the chance to ease his mind from all the pain that he has suffered over the years in his life by his father and other people who had done wrong by him. Now, you do have Jean Grey kind of give him too much of the glow, where he then begs her to stop. And he then agrees to go with Kitty Pryde, but you did have Charles say, hey, you're going with Kitty Pryde. But the restraints, they stay on as a way to protect Kitty Pryde, but to also protect Jubilee as well. Now, once you have Kitty Pryde and also Sabretooth arrive in the tunnels of the Morlocks, just like that, you have the two characters begin to fight against each other. Now, for Sabretooth, he kind of believes he has the ability to get one over on Kitty Pryde, that he should be able to easily take her down. But she then reminds him that, one, her ability makes it hard for people to take her down, but on top of that, she was trained by different people, like, for example, Wolverine. And so she was then able to put him back in his place once again, where he does agree to work with her. Now, you do have the two characters continue on in the tunnels of the Morlocks to hopefully find Jubilee, to save her life, or to just bring her back home and get her away from Caliban. Now, for Sabretooth and also Shadowcat, they continue on in the tunnels of the Morlocks. The problem is they enter a room that was set up as a trap by Caliban, because as soon as they walk in, the room begins to flood. Now, Kitty Pryde has the ability to get the heck out of there by using her phasing ability, but it also means she'll leave behind Sabretooth, and she cannot do that. And so right now, our two characters are stuck in a room that's flooding with water. Now, for Kitty Pryde, we have to remember that she has the ability to phase through technology and make them short circuit. And so she finds a fuse box that does short circuit and opens up a door to allow her and Sabretooth to get the heck out of there. But the problem is the Caliban, they're now going into an even more dangerous room in the tunnels. And the reason why it's more dangerous in this part of the tunnels because there's some kind of squid monster down there. Now, for me personally, I thought at first like, okay, it's some dangerous creatures that have been killing off the Morlocks left and right and be an actual challenge for our characters. No, it's just some squid creature that's really huge. And yes, it's big, but you do have Sabretooth being able to easily take down the creature. Now, before he does that, you have Caliban also jump in to help out taking down the squid monster. Now, for Sabretooth, at first, he wants to just walk away to allow Kitty Pryde and also Caliban to die by the hands of this squid creature. But then he realized he should jump back in the battle to take down the creature, which he does, but he does have a reason why he jumped back into the battle to help out Kitty Pryde and Caliban. And the reason why, because for Kitty Pryde, her phasing ability, because once you had him being able to save her and get her over to where Jubilee was at so that he can take down the squid creature, once he was done, he asked her like, hey, are you still using your phasing ability at the moment? And she says yes. And for him, that's perfect. And the reason why, because remember, her phasing ability short circuits any piece of technology very easily. And for example, his restraints. And so once he does put his hands through her phasing body, just like that, the restraints come off. He's now free to kill people more easily with his claws now being out. And so you have Sabretooth try to beat down on Caliban, like try to kill off the man. Now, at first, while you have Sabretooth being able to deliver one heck of a beatdown on Caliban, you didn't have Kitty Pryde and also Jubilee being able to step in and bring down Sabretooth just like that and put the restraints back on him to take him back over to school of Charles Xavier. Now, for the two ladies, they try to offer Caliban a new home, but he says no. And the reason why, he feels like he is destined to be alone forever, even though there are people like the X-Men who are trying to open up their doors to allow him to have a home. He still feels like he's destined to be alone forever. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.